So, about 800 years ago, when Gates of Hell has been opened, the new era of never-ending war has begun. Sounds crazy, right? And well, really bad. Never-ending war, endless trench crusade, just imagine. But is it really that bad? I mean, yeah, it surely is for a perspective of a person who has to live in that world. Thing is, well, throughout the Gates of Hell emerged some massive diabolic abominations, demons, diseases, etc. Demons, devils and other almost unkillable creatures. And Fateful Forces was using against that something like, well, trebuchet? Yeah, that was actually best weapon of a humanity against all that blasphemous creatures in the 11th century. So in the end, the never-ending war is actually a massive win of a Fateful Forces, because they really should all die or become slaves if we compare just the pure power of both sides. Luckily, all believers adopted really quick and started to produce unnatural creatures for themselves, like communicants, brazen bulls and, for example, paladins. Yeah, these are the most powerful weapon of the humanity. We actually do not know when Paladin program was started, but happened rather early and made any resistance at least possible. Because Paladins, as far as we know, can 1v1 even most powerful demons. They cannot only approach Gates of Hell, but they might even get inside if necessary. And they can operate there to make that unfair war winnable. A bit, at least. Thing is, there is only 12 of them. I mean, there was 2 died, as far as we know, on duty, and 1, well, he betrayed Holy Cause and became another demon. Hell Knight? Maybe. But that's just a rumor. Ordinary people like you or me do not have inside data, so we just need to guess, I think. I mean, the church is trying to hide the facts about Traitor, but they do not know everything about him anyway, right? Maybe they are right and he's not actually a traitor, but just missed in action. Maybe became a prisoner? We know that forces of hell like to enslave people, to torture them and maybe to brainwash some of those who are really worth the effort. Maybe that one paladin is detained somewhere in the deepest levels of hell. And what if he somehow break free? Such a concept is not that original. There is actually a lot of stories of humans who entered a hell, but all that fire did not consume them instantly, but they somehow resisted and now they spread death and destruction down there. Like for example, a Doom guy from Doom series, or Kaldor Draigo from Warhammer universe, even though he is sometimes treated rather like a meme. Well, is there any possibility for such a badass, faithful hero in Trench Crusade? Yeah, I think such a story is actually legit. Thing is, he would not be faithful anymore. I mean, not clearly. Because of tortures and all hellish practices, he would rather become some kind of killing machine, which is focused on killing demons, but not for the cause, but for, well, rather just because of desire to do it. For revenge, let's say. Right, the idea sounds good, I think. I would love to do such a thing in game, but, well, it would require some thinking to make such a concept really playable. We need to build a character as deadly and strong as possible, so where should I start? Faction is really optional, I feel. He's no longer a faithful one, but he actually was, so he can be based on a faithful model or on a heretic. I mean, New Antioch fits there a bit less, because there is not that much of a divine powers in that. Clerics? Nah, just +1/+1 does not feel good enough. Iron Sultanate also does not fit, and it is kinda obvious. They are not involved in the story of our Kaldor Doom guy at all, or generally speaking, in a story of any paladin. Pilgrims? Great, there are some options. Communicants are kinda first thought, but war prophets might also work. And what about heretics? Well, there are also some choices. Heretic Legions has some options, as well as a Court of a Seven-Headed Serpent. I think the Black Graal is less interesting though, but well, that might be me. just does not feel them for such a use. What about weaponry? We know that paladins are wearing some kind of plate armor, and in that case they need to wear at least reinforced armor. That also will make them harder to kill, and we really like that. However, best idea for armor is something really special, like Holy Icon armor from Trench Pilgrims subfaction, Tarnished armor from Knights of Avarice, or Infernal armor, Iron armor from the Court. Those give some additional durability or certain new skills. What next? We know Paladins uses swords and shields, so we just need to give them Trench Shield, but in case of a melee weapon, standard sword does not feel strong enough. It just, well, one attack without any bonuses is rather poor option. Greatsword would look way better, but that requires strong. Without it, that might not be worth to take that one. I mean, with a shield it's clearly impossible. Yeah? So, greatsword and a shield is a must, with a strong, obviously. What about range? We don't have any lore requirements in that case, so we just can use whatever we want, but I have my one favorite. A heavy shotgun, to make our vengeful paladin a bit similar to a Doom guy, and also because that weapon is really, really strong. Now, the details. Let's start from the beginning and the first faction, Heretic Legions. Especially there is great subfaction for our project, Knights of Avarice. What is that great about them? Well, they got that special rule which gives them a chance to buy one weapon from New Antioch and one from Sultanate. That gives a really cool opportunity to make that paladin a bit similar to Faithful Forces, like for example heavy shotgun from New Antioch. Yeah baby, let's go! Main issue with that weapon, generally speaking, is that it has no assault keyword, so model with it cannot shoot and charge in the same turn. So he has to choose melee or range combat. But Heretic Priest has special ability called, well, I don't remember the name, to be honest, well, whatever. It surges chosen model by d6 inches, so it is technically possible to make him shoot with a heavy shotgun and fight with a greatsword in melee in the same turn. Problem is, Priest is not strong. He cannot use greatsword with a shield. Hellsword is not heavy but still two-handed, so same story. However, there is an option to give him sacrificial dagger. I know, that's not a sword, but we can make his sword broken, for example, as a sign of his never-ending path of vengeance in hell. He killed some powerful demon with that sword, but weapon has broken, let's say. That's cool additional background, I think. Sounds rather cool. And another level of storytelling which also fits the build. Thing is, that heavy shotgun is still heavy, so it will really slow down our Kaldor Doom guy because of lack of strong. In that case, automatic shotgun would be way better, but, well, it's not that powerful, like the heavy one. I don't know, we will see. I could take Martyrdom Pills from New Antioch and let's say Wind Amulet from Sultanate to make him a bit faster, and here it is. Now, Trench Pilgrims. And there is one obvious choice for a paladin, Communicant. Because all paladins has been made of communicants themselves, so yeah, both Procession and Cavalcade sub-factions are great for them. First gives access to Holy Icon armor, which is unignorable, but the second has really cool ability, which at the beginning of a turn gives one ally a blessing marker. In that case, to our paladin. Main issue is that Communicant has -3 range, so any shotgun is not the best option. With such a penalty, it is best to use flamethrowers or any other weapon which hits automatically, but no assault on those, sadly. And there is no other search option on that model, so yeah, we could not have any range weapon. Maybe grenades, just in case. With a War Prophet there is similar story to a Heretic Priest. He is not strong, and it is even worse because there is not such good item as Sacrificial Dagger in Trench Pilgrims equipment list. Flail would work, but that changes whole concept of a guy with a sword and shield a bit too much. What about Castigator? Well, he's okay. Can buy additional strong keyword, but he has only +1/+1, not enough for such a badass I wanna create. So for Pilgrims there is no better option than Communicant, I believe. But he rather looks like normal Paladin, not a bit corrupted Kaldor Doom guy I wanna make. So, skipped Sultanate and New Antioch and found a Black Graal. As I previously said, that faction doesn't fit that much for a badass Paladin, I think. It is a bit too, I don't know, Grailish? I mean, almost all members of the Black Graal are slaves, and because of Beelzebub's touch ability, I cannot take Lord of Tumors to be my Paladin. It's just completely, that not fit at all. Maybe Executor from a Ditch of the Great Hegemony subfaction, but there are still some issues with equipment. Only that black shit is available, that not fit for me. And then we have Court of a Seven-Headed Serpent. My first idea was Desecrated Saint, but I quickly realized he has only melee option, and he's also massive demonic entity, so not that much of a paladin. Only 2 options left, Hell Knights and Praetor. But before I decided, I started to think about equipment, because there are really cool options there. Especially we have that scene upgrades. I mean, that mechanics are really nice, and for our paladin one of the rough scenes would look really good for the lore perspective. But I found that Envy? It gives a chance to take one weapon or armor from faithful forces for our paladin. Like for example Heavy Shotgun of course, or even Holy Icon Shield. And it also has second ability which gives our paladin a lot of mobility, so I built a Praetor like that. Main issue is that Heavy Shotgun, again, which makes melee and range combat in the same turn impossible. Heretic Priest got an option to skip that issue, but Praetor has not. Anyway, I have basic view of how standard equipment of a paladin should look like. Now I just needed to make it in 3D. I had kinda clear idea of an overall look I wanna create. Some of you might play video game called Lords of the Fallen. As far as I know, game was not a perfect product, there are some issues, but there is one thing in that what I really appreciate. This cool looking character shown at almost all trailers and ads. The Dark Crusader set. It looks just amazing for my purposes, because it is not only a knight with typical great helm, but there is also a lot of signs of adventure? No, signs of struggle, yeah. And he feels like an exile of some sort. He carries that hoodie and a cape covering almost all armored parts, like he would like to hide his identity. Perfect for purpose of a paladin fighting throughout the hell. I knew that will take some time. Thing is that paladin are generally speaking way bigger than typical humans, so it is possible and kinda needed to add on them a lot more details than usual. And I wanted that guy to be as specific as possible, or maybe, let's say, different. Wanted to make him from scratches, not with my old parts created some time ago and used many times in many other projects. So started small, with just a basic posing. Idea was simple, first to make that basic straight pose and then to add some dynamism in the future. Added old legs, because these are not that important parts, and created brand new gauntlet with some ornaments. Basic chainmail to fill open space under parts of armor is a rather easy process. But that shoulder pads are a bit different story. To be honest, I always struggle with exactly that part of an armor, like always. It is so hard for me to make proper good looking shoulder pads. Same story was with this paladin, but at the end it went really well. I even used some 2D stuff and alphas to create some additional ornaments, but to be honest that was not needed really. Could make all that parts easily, but in Blender without any 2D. Like for example that masking stuff. Anyways, that parts took me a lot of time to make. Lot of details and part that I always struggle with, so yeah, that was not that easy. Added basic geometry, imitating clothes at the first stage of a project, but details were added when whole basic sculpt was almost ready. I really like to add that structure of a material, and well, I never mentioned this, but I do use mouse and keyboard in whole process. Do not have any digital tablet or any other advanced professional expensive tool or equipment. And I tell you more, I use cheap silicone keyboard for a long time because it makes less noise, which is key because my newborn daughter is sleeping like really near me. So yeah, you don't really need expensive stuff to start sculpting, saying just in case, if some of you may wonder. What about weapons? I made sword from scratches. I said that before, I mean in the previous episode I think, but I really love to sculpt swords. It is like ultimate item to make for me. It is almost always such a fun process, easy but in the same time really satisfying. So I made it at the first stage of a project. Shotgun is, well, I took one from my Order of Rust, which is alternative version of the Black Graal. It looks fine to me, just copy pasted it at the proper place. At the end I realized that sword is kinda floating in the air and there is needed some kind of belt to carry it. Bandolier would be best. With an ammunition. I mean bullets, like in westerns. It fits for a shotgun, would work with revolver as well, and rifles too, to be honest. And it also make that knight look like a bit more modern, which is really needed to break that, I would say, a bit fantasy vibe. At the last stage I added additional details, some damage on cape first, and then, well, I did not record at that stage, but I also added that crown of thorns at his head made of barbed wire and also some kind of iron halo. At his back made two options, one with a shield and another with a, I mean damaged shield, and another with a book and a bag full of magical scrolls, or something like that. I also decided to add some weapon variety, so sculpted simple revolver, I mean two types of revolver. One standard simple one inspired by Hand Showdown uppercut and another a weird one. Wanted it to be highly ornamented and look like a bit secular. So I took a censer from my Grim Monastery set and also that big candle and mixed all parts into a gun. Crazy idea, and that might be a little bit too much, but well, it is at least different. And finally, at that stage I can finally say that project is completed. It took me like 2 days? Not that long time at all. Expected like a week. I mean, I had an idea and some concept arts to follow, but expected a long struggle with inventing some important parts either way. Well, went faster than expected, so it is, I think, good thing.
NANI?!